You act weird, we don't get in. You listen to me?
Yeah.
I want you to look normal. As normal as possible, all right? Look, just Raymond, put your hands down. Don't rock and moan.
4 minutes
just
to walk.
shut up, Raymond. Just shut up and stand there.
Yeah.
Raymond, don't rock and moan.
Yeah.
Put your hands down. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Donald Clemens from the A.C. Nielsen Company. You're familiar with our work?
Nielsen, you mean the TV rating?
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly it. Now, you've been selected as a preliminary candidate to become our next Nielsen family in the Tri-County area.
Well, my husband's not
If
home.
selected, you'll share the responsibility for shaping television programming viewed by our entire nation, in return for which you'll receive a check in the amount of $286 each month.
Who's he?
That would be my partner, Mr. Bainbridge, who does sample. That's it.
Oh, boy.
That's it. You blew it. You don't get to see your program. It's finished.
1 minute to walk.
1 minute to Wapner. 1 minute to Wapner. 1 minute to Wapner. I had you in there, Ray. You were in there. Defendants, plaintiffs, you had it all. They are in there making legal history, Ray. Legal history.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
What is going on out here?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm very sorry about that. That man right there is my brother. And if he doesn't get to watch People's Court in about 30 seconds, he's going to throw a fit right here in your porch. Now, you can help me, or you can stand there and watch it happen.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, The Voice, Jeff Tucker.
I am a petty moviegoer. I am not ashamed to admit it. I let weird biases affect the way I enjoy movies, which movies I watch, you name it. So it's no secret, like Back to the Future, 1985, was the movie that just changed the way I looked at movies, the way I looked at wanting to be a writer, and the way I looked at Leah Thompson. Leah Thompson was my dream girl, 1985, until 1980, well, I want to say 87, because that's when I saw Lucas on VHS, but it wasn't really until Beetlejuice that Winona Ryder came into the forefront. But Leah Thompson was it, man. I had posters of Leah Thompson that I'd cut out of magazines. I had the Back to the Future collector magazine, you name it, right? I still have somewhere in my garage a giant poster of Casual Sex that Leah Thompson made. So looking back, so I see Back to the Future. I'm enamored with Leah Thompson. So you start watching her movies like Red Dawn and The Wildlife. And then I got to All the Right Moves, and I was just completely irritated and angry because she's Tom Cruise's girlfriend. So from that moment on, I was done with Tom Cruise. Top Gun cemented it. Like, Top Gun was so... now, forget it. Top Gun's a very well-made movie. Tony Scott's a hell of a director. But... And in hindsight, it's a very good movie. But at the time, like, it came off so smarmy. Like, Tom Cruise he's way too good looking. Now, I had enjoyed Risky Business, because Risky Business was on cable ad nauseum when I had cable. Open the door, Joel. But Top Gun was just so so not me. Like, I'm never gonna be that guy. You know, I know a lot of guys, the urban legend was they had Navy recruiting officers in the lobby of the theater, and guys would come out after seeing Top Gun and immediately sign up to join the Navy. And I knew, my vision was so bad, they were never going to let me near a plane unless it was to wash it down. And if you've ever seen a movie called Sleep With Me, Quentin Tarantino does an entire monologue about how Top Gun is an analogy for whether you're going to be straight or gay. It's very funny. You should look it up. I'll see if I can find it on YouTube. But, Tom Cruise had an unbelievable run from a child actor into becoming an adult actor. And I'm not sure who his agent was. I know that in later years it was he had hired his sister. Like, remember that couch jumping nonsense? with Katie Holmes. Like, Tom Cruise is unhinged. You know, Tom Cruise is a very unusual individual. Tom Cruise is eccentric. He is rich beyond anyone's imagination. And he makes some of the best movie choices, acting-wise, of any actor of the last 30 years. You know what? It's kind of tough to say that after I just trashed the guy. But it's weird to like Tom Cruise movies, but not like Tom Cruise. That's weird, right? But that being said, he was pretty damn smart after doing, The Outsiders, Risky Business. I'm going from memory, so if I miss one, I apologize. Risky Business, All the Right Moves. And then, he got really savvy. He must have told his agent, like, look, I don't need, because he could have coasted on teen idol movies for another 5 or 6 years. He could have been that guy, you know? And instead, he went to his agent, you know, I'm extrapolating here. He went to his agent and said, I don't need to be the lead. What I need to be in a movie right next to an amazing actor. And that's how we got Paul Newman and him in Color of Money, and the movie we're reviewing today, Rain Man. Tom Cruise probably was not the first choice for Charlie Babbitt. But watching the movie again, I watched this movie a lot in high school because at the time I wanted to be an actor in the worst way. And when you want to be an actor, you watch the best, and you watch Dustin Hoffman in nearly every role from his early career up until Hook, Family Business. He kind of slipped every once in a while and made schlock, but every actor is entitled to some schlock. That being said, Rain Man is a complete masterpiece of acting, of subtlety, and of Barry Levinson's amazing direction. So let's cut to Barry Levinson for a second. This is a guy, if you look at Barry Levinson's IMDb, this guy was a comedy writer like all through the golden years of television. He really paid his dues. Wasn't a guy who just decided one day, like, I'm a director, because that's happened. James Cameron, they said, who's directing? I'm directing. Are you a director? I am today. And he's a director on Piranha 2, The Spawning. But Levinson cut his teeth on writing for television. He wrote the 12 Chairs for Mel Brooks, Silent Movie. He directed Diner, which some consider to be one of the greatest movies of the 80s. Tin Men, Good Morning Vietnam, Robin Williams' tour de force. And then he nurtured this bizarre Rain Man script and ended up winning Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director. It's called a sweep, folks. He won everything for Rain Man. I've never reviewed a Best Picture winner on this show. We haven't not done Amadeus yet. But Rain Man, Best Picture, 1988, it's a road picture. They have to get from point A to point B. It was funny watching it. I'm always watching it like looking for the angle. And I was struck by how much this movie reminded me of Midnight Run. Because Midnight Run is we're going to review that one eventually very soon. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. De Niro has to get Charles Grodin to LA from New York, but Grodin won't fly, so they have to take every other form of transportation. And that's the same thing that happens in Rain Man. He has that great scene where Rain Man won't fly because every plane has gone down except Qantas. What? Qantas. And so it's a road picture. And that being said, this movie is such a great snapshot. Probably filmed in late 86, most of 87. I'm not sure. I didn't look up any of the making of it. But what a snapshot of America in the 80s. Great shots of Las Vegas and the Strip. A lot of hotels that aren't there anymore. Great shots of Los Angeles and cigarette billboards that are no longer visible in the city, and the rural parts of America. And what's interesting about Rain Man is, on the surface, it's a road picture. Charlie Babbitt is he's a con man to some degree. He's trying to import these they're either Maseratis or Lamborghinis, these Italian sports cars, and he's just the middleman. He's getting them in the country, and he's going to sell them to these rich guys and then pocket whatever's left over. It's supposed to be about $75,000, but right in the middle of it, and it's all falling apart because the cars won't pass smog, which is funny for those of us who live in California because until like modern day cars really fixed it, getting your car smogged was like one of the worst things in the world. You would cross your fingers. One time I took my my Suzuki Samurai in to get smogged, and before I smogged it, I put a new air filter, a new oil filter, I put in the highest grade gasoline, and I prayed. And the guy's like, it passed, man. Oh my God, by 1 point. Well, it still passed. So those of us in California can totally relate to that. But right in the middle of this big car deal, Charlie gets a phone call that his father has died, and it interrupts his trip to Palm Springs. And in the first, 15 minutes of this movie, you get everything you need to know about Charlie Babbitt. Charlie Babbitt is an a-hole, a shyster, and he only cares about himself. We're not sure what his deal is. We won't find out for another 10 or 15 minutes. But you're not really sure if you like this guy. And truth be told, you probably don't. So Charlie ends up going back home. You see this amazing classic car in the garage, and Charlie tells a story of how all he ever wanted to do was drive this car, and his father wouldn't let him. So when he was 16, he stole it, and he took it on the town with his friends, and his father called the cops and reported it stolen. Not by his son, but just stolen. So Charlie ended up spending 2 days in jail. His father wouldn't bail him out. And when Charlie got out, he left home, and he never looked back. So he has no relationship with his father. His father is now dead. And Charlie, an only child, no mother, no father, and he's there to pick up the pieces and just basically get the inheritance. And it's never really outrightly said in the film, but you kind of get the idea that Charlie's going to liquidate everything, including the car, and use the money to just live his life, or even worse, use the money for a next get-rich-quick scheme. But at the reading of the will, he finds out that he's only getting the car, and he's only getting the car because his father is flipping him off from the grave, saying the car was the reason we have no relationship, so go ahead and take it, a-hole. And all of the money, his estate, $3 million, is going to an undisclosed person. And it's a slap in the face to Charlie. He doesn't know who on earth his father could have left the money to. So what's interesting about Rain Man is that it's nearly 3 hours long. It's a very long film, but it doesn't have any of the expected trappings of a movie like this. Charlie goes into the big city to find out who the beneficiary is, and it's done like from afar. You just see Charlie talking to somebody at a desk in a bank. There's no computer scene of him, I found him. There's no him. There's no long, prolonged scheme to get the name. He just gets the name, and they drive out to a home, a hospital for people with mental problems, physical problems, where they're taken care of, and he finds Raymond Babbitt. Well, first off, the doctor won't tell him who the beneficiary is, but he sees a guy messing around with the car, and the guy knows everything about the car, and the guy is Raymond Babbitt. And the doctor finally says, "That's your brother." And there's an interesting moment there where you can see Charlie's confused, we're confused, but as an adult, you look at it as a moment of, boy, the father had his hands full. The mom died. He had a son with autism to raise, and he had a son who had all his faculties to raise, and he was left alone to do it. And a lot of guys are not equipped for that. You can say all you want. I mean, you can joke about Mr. Mom, but a lot of guys get married, have kids, and have no idea how to deal with those kids. They just don't. Men aren't. It's not in our DNA. It's something we have to learn. So you start to have a little bit of sympathy for the senior Babbitt because you see him in a different light, and we'll get to see him he's never. There's a picture of him in the movie, but there's no flashbacks. Again, there's none of the usual tropes. There's no flashbacks, no echoey, Charlie waking up, hearing the voice of his father. Nothing like that you'd see in a modern day movie about a guy haunted by his father. And here's where, before we even get to Dustin Hoffman, here's where the movie shines and why the movie works so well is because Tom Cruise, playing Charlie Babbitt, he's the only one in the film who has a story arc. Yeah, Raymond's going to have a little bit. He's going to learn to trust Charlie, but Charlie's going to learn to be human. The movie's about a character with autism, played by Dustin Hoffman. But in the beginning 45 minutes, an hour and a half, Charlie Babbitt has no emotion. He is just as autistic as Raymond, even though he's not, they call him an idiot savant in the movie, so it's not a slam. It's mentioned in the film. Raymond's a savant. Charlie is a numbers guy, but the way he treats his girlfriend, and he just is awful to her. The way he treats Raymond, the way he pulls him along like a pet, has no regard other than this is the $3 million man. You really dislike Charlie. He is irritated. He doesn't like Raymond. He doesn't understand what his father did. But over the course of the film, you see Charlie soften, and you see Charlie eagerly take on the role of brother to this man he's never met. And that's what I really got out of the movie. Because as a teenager, I studied relentlessly Dustin Hoffman's character. You know, every scene he's completely on his mark. And you sort of forget Cruise's performance, but it's Cruise's performance that is propelling the movie. Raymond is a passive passenger in this story. Were it not for Charlie taking him, putting him in the car and driving off, there's no story. Raymond's happy to sit in his room the rest of his life. But it really is a testament to Cruise's acting. And he's quite young here. I think he's 25, 26, and he's really holding his own next to one of the finest movie actors of all time. That's saying something. And I'm not a Tom Cruise fan, like I said at the top of the show. I'm a fan of Tom Cruise movies. This guy is an incredible actor. And this movie really does lay the groundwork and the seeds for some of his performances later. He would slip. Maybe Cocktail was already in the contract. Cocktail was Top Gun with bartenders. But then, Far and Away, Days of Thunder, and he does so many. I mean, I thought Edge of Tomorrow was unbelievable, and Oblivion's fantastic too. But Charlie kidnaps Raymond and calls the doctor, says you can have him back for $1.5 million. I just want my half. And then he says, I'll see you in court. So you think the movie's going to build towards some big court scene, which thankfully, again, it doesn't, even though it's nearly 3 hours long. Instead, the reason it's so long is that Levinson, the director, spends so much time showing you the world through Raymond's eyes. When they're on the bridge, he's humming and you're watching the girder work go by and the metal of the street. And you're like, initially it's jarring. Like, what's going on? Is it just for atmosphere? And then you realize you're starting to see the world as an autistic person does. The patterns, the comfort that Raymond finds in finding the pattern so that nothing is chaotic. the red sock always falls the same, or the red shirt always falls the same in the dryer. It's fascinating. And you also, so you're seeing the movie through Raymond's eyes. And then you're stuck with Charlie, who's completely flustered by Raymond's needs, because Raymond's very needy. He has to have everything exactly the same every day, or by the days of the week, or he loses his mind, because all he has to cling to is routine. And one of the crazy things that I discovered watching this movie, and I'd like to thank Michael Bondi, Patreon pledger, for suggesting and sponsoring this episode. I saw Michael in the park the other day at Knott's. Always good to see him and to hang out for a few minutes, even though I was on the way to a meeting. But, I've been accused of having some high-functioning form of autism, because I'm watching the movie and Raymond can look at something and memorize it forever, and he knows dates and times, and I'm just watching going, well, that's kind of how I am with movies. I catalog and obsess over minutia, movies, directors, writers, cinematographers, locations, release dates, and I'm watching it going, I'm Rain Man. I'm not nearly as debilitated as poor Raymond is, but I can certainly sympathize and see where he's coming from. And when I told my wife that, she looked at me and she's like, oh yeah, you're Rain Man, all right. And I used to walk around Norwalk High in my high school years after seeing this movie in 400 Oak Street. Of course, I get my underwear from Kmart. And it was a part of pop culture to mimic Rain Man. Kmart sucks. And Sally Dibbs Sally. How do you know her? You said read the phone book. Do you memorize the phone book? Sally Dibbs Sally. And then he counts the toothpicks, and it was parodied pretty good in The Hangover. Eventually they're going to get to Las Vegas, but we'll get to that. So along the way, Raymond's been pretty calm with Charlie because of the girlfriend, but finally she's had enough because she realizes Charlie has no heart. And he is not connecting with his brother. This is a road trip purely for blackmail. He is putting the pinch on the doctor to sign over half the money, which the doctor's not going to do. He's like, you're not going to keep Raymond. We're just going to have a meeting, and you're going to have to take him back to the institute. But Charlie is stubborn. And so when the girlfriend leaves, Charlie's on his own. And you're seeing a weird kind of reversal, because Charlie now is becoming his father. Every man becomes his father. Once a man's father dies, he becomes his father. That's, unless you're fighting it, unless your father was a terrible person, you have to fight it. Oscar Wilde, every woman becomes her mother. That's their tragedy. No man does. That's his. So we see Charlie learning to cope and having to deal with this guy who needs things. They have to stop at a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere because People's Court is on. It's a great scene. At first, Charlie BS's the woman. She's not having it. And finally, Charlie realizes the key is to just be honest. This is my brother. And unless he watches People's Court the next minute, he is going to have a meltdown right on this porch. And the woman lets him in and they watch People's Court. Charlie brings 4 fist sticks. There's supposed to be 8. He cuts them in half. So you're starting to see Charlie move things forward. And the real pivotal moment in the movie is when we're never explained in the beginning what Rain Man means. We don't know what that means. Charlie makes a really offhanded comment that when he would cry as a baby, his imaginary friend, the Rain Man, would sing him to sleep. And then one day he gave up the Rain Man phony friend, imaginary friend. Well, he's with Raymond in the in a motel in the middle of nowhere. Raymond's brushing his teeth, and Raymond makes a joke. Funny Rain Man, funny teeth. And you could see Charlie, what did you say? Funny Rain Man, funny teeth. And Charlie realizes deep in his subconscious, he knows Raymond is the Rain Man. Raymond becomes Rain Man. As he was little, trying to say Raymond came out Rain Man. And he used to sing to him, She Was Just 17. And you know what I mean. And it's a real moment. I mean, haven't we all had that? Haven't we all had those flashes of our really early childhood where we'll see a stuffed animal or a movie or a TV show or a theme park or a store, and it will just trigger like boom. Wow. The formative years where your brain is putting all this stuff together, all these synapses are firing, and you unlock something from years ago. It can be really amazing. You know, I've retained almost everything, so I have those moments, and they're rare because I already remember everything. But when I unlock a new memory, you know, it's like a treasure chest, and you can see in that scene Charlie's memory being unlocked, and then it's followed up by he's running a bath, and Raymond freaks out, and the story is after the Babbitt mother died, the father tried to raise both boys on his own, and Raymond he had an accident with Charlie and a bathtub full of hot water, and he burned Charlie. So the father had to put Raymond into a home for Charlie's safety, for Raymond's routine. And in that moment, it's between two brothers. But in that moment, Charlie realizes more about his father than he ever has in his entire life. It's very touching because, you know, we've all had that moment. You know, mine came too late. We all have that moment where we suddenly realize, A, that our parents didn't always have the answers. B, that they were young. C, they didn't know what they were doing. And then we have to treat them as people. By the time I figured it out, my parents were both dead. I didn't get to have any of those conversations. Charlie didn't have it because he left home and he never looked back. And he realizes in that moment all the sacrifice that his father made for him and how difficult it was to raise Charlie. You know, his wife's in the ground. He's raising Charlie, and he's going on the weekends to see Raymond. And he never mentions Raymond to Charlie again. Charlie had no clue Raymond existed. And in that amazing scene, you could see Charlie having all of these cathartic moments, these realizations. There's not a lot of dialogue, but it's all there. It's all there. And that's the turning point of the movie, where Charlie realizes he needs Raymond in his life. Raymond is all he has. Family. It's the image of his father. And he's doing this and seeing these moments and having these moments at the same time that his business life is completely falling apart. In the middle of the desert, he finds out he's $80,000 in debt. I mean, for anybody like me, anybody listening who's had any kind of real world problems, which is everybody, I can't even imagine a phone call like that. And when Charlie's out kicking the dirt and screaming, that's a human response. He's screaming, son of a bitch. We've all had it. We've all been there. But we do get redemption and a chance at a second life when Charlie realizes that Raymond can count cards. And it's interesting, like, the scenes in Vegas they're fun. He's cheating the system, yes, but we don't have any allegiance to the casino. So the more they win cheating, the more excited we get. The money rolling. It's a great 80s montage of them winning. There's a great little sidebar where he hears the Wheel of Fortune, the clicking. So he has to get up. Raymond has to get up. And Charlie thinks he can win at that one too, and he loses $3,000 in a couple of seconds. But it's another one of those moments where we're seeing it through Raymond's eyes and what he finds attractive and what he gets up to the clicking. There's also an underlying thing in the movie with Raymond's character where even though he's autistic and has trouble with people, he likes women. So when an obvious hooker chats him up at the bar, Charlie lets it play. Hey, I'll just be over here. And Raymond thinks he has a date. So we've had the iconic scene of them coming down the escalator, that was used in the trailer and it's been parodied a million times. And then we get a really, really well done scene where Charlie teaches Raymond how to dance. It's the first time these characters have really touched. There's been some fighting and some smacking around, but this is a moment between two brothers, and Charlie is teaching Raymond how to dance. And I put myself in the shoes of the crew, what it was like on the set that day, watching this scene unfold, because it is a magical scene. It's two brothers connecting for the first time. It's the first time we've seen Raymond need something that's not part of his routine. He needs to learn how to dance for this date that he thinks he's going on. He's been watching Fred Astaire, and it's not fistics or numbered anything. It's just a human need, and Charlie seizes the moment to really connect with his brother. The Rain Man Suite at Caesar's Palace is still there, apparently. It's been used in a lot of movies. How many people have stood at that window and danced, See that, Ray? That's Las Vegas. It's very sparkly, very twinkly. Yes, yeah. So when they go downstairs, Raymond is pulled to the side. Charlie is taken into the back. And Raymond sits for a woman who's never coming. It's not, he asks her the magic question. Are you taking any prescription medication? Are you taking any prescription medication? That means he likes you. The woman she's gone. So we know that Charlie's going to be, I keep screwing the names up. We know that Raymond's going to be stood up on his date. Now, fortunately, Charlie's girlfriend has shown up in Vegas to save the day on both fronts. Charlie needs her now more than ever. Sees now what he's been missing without her in his life. So Charlie's taken the back and told by casino security, we know you're counting cards. We don't know how you're doing it with a six deck shoe. We're just telling you it's time to leave Las Vegas. And Charlie tries to fight it because I think in his head they were going to hit a few more casinos and leave town with about $300,000. Instead, they leave town with enough money to pay off all of Charlie's debts and give him a fresh start. And it's the first success Charlie has in the whole film. At the same time, Raymond, who's been stood up by his date, rides the elevator all the way back up to the suite with Charlie's girlfriend, who Carlita Gugino, same girl who was in Big Top Pee-wee. Really very, very good looking, great, sexy accent. She really does, she adds a lot of layers to the film. As she pushes stop on the elevator and just has a dance. They have music. They twirl a bit in the elevator. Now, prior to this, when Charlie tried to hug Raymond after the dance, he had a meltdown, started screaming, And you can see that Charlie was really put off because he was finally going to connect with his brother on a physical level, just hugging, the human interactions that we need in our connections. So it's a real moment in the elevator when Charlie's girlfriend kisses Raymond. He's never kissed a girl before. You ever kissed a girl, Raymond? I don't know. And she walks him through it. He's enough into her to put his guard down and to have this moment with her. And it's really touching. It could have come off weird. It could have come off that she was taking advantage of him. So the fact that it's played so well, that never enters our mind. In today's obsessive, I'm offended culture, it'd be interesting to see how Rain Man would fare. When I looked it up, because I like to watch the trailers for movies and that kind of stuff. One of the comments on one of the YouTube videos was, I guess we're making fun of the mentally deficient. I'm like, no. Did you watch the movie? Nobody's getting made fun of here. This is a prestige piece. So I wonder if you released it, if you remade it, what would happen? Not that I care. It's a product of 1988. It's a Best Picture winner. Who cares? But we do live in a different society. And it's also interesting to note that every time Charlie needs a phone, he has to find a payphone. And I find that so charming because it allows the story to slow down every once in a while. Today, he would just have a cell phone and every minute would be glued to his ear, which would signify he's a businessman and he's always on the phone. So it's nice that he's just driving the car. And when he needs to talk to Lenny back home, he has to stop at a payphone. Eventually, they get back to L.A. Like I said, we get those great shots of L.A. And instead of a big mega court case, we simply get a hearing between the doctor, a psychologist, psychiatrist, and Charlie and Raymond. And it's quite long. It's very like you're really there. It's not played for quick cuts, to get it out of the way. And ultimately, we know that we've just seen a scene where Raymond freaked out after not knowing how to work the toaster oven to make pancakes or waffles or something. And the smoke alarm went off. And we can sort of see at that moment. It's weird. We've had this journey and we're kind of rooting. We're rooting for Charlie to win, to keep Raymond, to keep that part of his life. And in the smoke alarm scene, we watch it all fall apart. He is not equipped. He doesn't have the staff. And we know that Raymond's going back home to the hospital, to Willowbrook. There's a scene where, the one movie scene is the doctor offers Charlie $250,000 to walk away, and Charlie doesn't take the money. It's got to be about the brother. He's seen the light, and he wants his brother. He doesn't want the money. It's a great scene. It's expected in a movie like this. We need to have the main character turn down the money. It happens quite a bit in movies. There's a check in there if you'll just walk away. Well, I'm not walking away from your daughter, or whatever it is. Like I said earlier, I watched this movie a lot. This was one of the first, when I worked at the video store, we would get screeners in, and this was one of the screeners I grabbed. Screener is you get the movie early so that your employees can watch it and then recommend it when it comes out. It was weird to get a screener for the Best Picture winner. I mean, everybody knew about Rain Man, but I took it to school. My drama teacher was very into Dustin Hoffman's performance, so we watched it and studied it as part of class. And I thought it was funny that when I went to watch it this time, thanks to Michael's choice of movie, I couldn't remember how it ended. Most movies I can remember vividly. This one, I couldn't figure out exactly how it ended. So watching the court scene, the pseudo court scene, I knew Charlie was going to lose. But I didn't quite remember how it all played out. And it all plays out at the train station, and it's very, very, it's very sad. Raymond is going home. And all Charlie has is he's going to visit him in a couple of weeks. But there's a real subtle nod there at the end where Raymond spells out Charlie's name, Charlie, Charlie, my main man, Charlie. And that was what he was doing with Vern back at Willowbrook. Now, Vern had been with him for years to get the moniker of my main man. Charlie got it in a week. And it's glossed over. It's not like, hey, pay attention to this scene. It's just in the dialogue. But in that tiny, tiny piece of dialogue, you understand that this trip has been just as important for Raymond as it has been for Charlie. You know, he is Kmart sucks, which is a funny line. Because, you know, he would only get his underwear there, but now it sucks because Charlie said so. But my main man, Charlie, is the big indicator that the trip has affected Raymond in some way. He got to drive the car. I mean, the scene of him driving the car at a Caesar's Palace is so good. The music, the fountains, the moment of freedom. It's a freedom moment. You know, Charlie's debts are going to be paid off. He's got his girl back. He's connected with Raymond. If the movie had ended there, they could have faded out. It would have been just as good without the other 25 minutes resolution. Yeah, you know, and some movies do that. The characters ride off in the night. You don't know what happens. Rain Man needed to have its resolution. I totally get that. But that's the emotional high point of the movie, is when they're driving out of Caesars as, you know, as winners in a movie where everybody's been put down the whole time. And there's been this underlying stress of the doctor and bring him back. And he needs food at this time and tapioca. I got to find tapioca pudding, that sort of thing, right? Again, Best Picture winner. Barry Levinson directed it. Dustin Hoffman obviously won an Oscar for it. He's stellar. Anybody who thinks film acting is easy, watch Rain Man and think about how Dustin Hoffman is not autistic. And yet in every scene, he is on the mark, on the money. That is hard to do, my friends. It is hard to sit in the trailer and have spaghetti and meatballs, and then walk on the set and instantly become somebody else. It is hard to do. Even double hard when you're playing a character that specific. You know, Tom Cruise is playing a variation of a lot of characters Tom Cruise has played. He's playing him much better in this one and much more layered. But Hoffman's transforming himself. Everybody benefited from Rain Man. Everybody's career was boosted. Levinson was able to go on. This happens a lot, folks. Guy does a Best Picture, or either a Best Picture or a massive hit. And then the studio says, hey, whatever you want to do next is okay with us because you must know what you're doing, even though nobody knows what they're doing. Levinson came back. His next film was Toys. Now, if you've ever had the unfortunate circumstance to sit through Toys, God bless you. It is a terrible, terrible movie. It has beautiful production design, but it is a terrible, terrible movie. But that's a vanity project. You get to do that after you have a massive hit for the studio. And he also made another one called Avalon, which was another vanity pick. Now, I've never seen Avalon, but from what I've heard, it's a pretty good movie. So, Levinson he's not dead. He had a great run. He's made some really iconic movies. He'll be remembered fondly for 100 years with the contribution he's made to cinema. He's not a household name like Spielberg or Coppola, but you don't have to be. If you've got a Best Director Oscar sitting on your shelf, you know what you're doing, even though nobody knows what they're doing. Hoffman and Cruise this would boost their careers to the nth degree. Cruise would go on to make successful picture after successful picture. Hoffman would make great choices like Hook. He would stumble. Mad City's not very good. I've seen some Hoffman movies that aren't good. Hero. You ever seen Hero? It's okay, I guess. Doesn't matter. Hoffman's one of the greatest actors to ever grace the screen, and Rain Man is a masterpiece. Think about this. Rain Man's from 1988. They parodied it in the Hangover, and everybody knew what they were parodying. That's longevity, folks. That's shelf life. That's how you make an enduring classic, and it doesn't hurt when it wins Best Picture. One of the funny things about Best Picture winners, especially in the video world, a lot of times the movies would come out on video before the Oscars. They would come out long before the Oscars. I think Silence of the Lambs came out long before it won Best Picture. So they couldn't put it on the box, Best Picture winner. So you know what they would do? They would send you stickers. You'd get stickers in the mail from the video company that would say, Silence of the Lambs, winner of 5 Academy Awards, and you'd stick it on the box. I remember getting those. Those were cool. We got them once for Tucker, the Man in His Dream. And it said, Tucker, the Man in His Dream, nominated for so many Oscars. I don't remember how many Oscar was. I cut out the Man in His Dream, so it just said, even better, it said Jeff Bridges in Tucker, the Man in His Dream, nominated. And I had it on my wall forever. I cut out Bridges in. So it said Jeff Tucker, the Man in His Dream, nominated. Isn't that great? What a great sticker that was. I wish I still had that. I should look that up on eBay. But, yeah, no, Rain Man was one of those movies we got 20 copies of, and they rented a long time. Everybody wanted to watch Rain Man. And I think if you walked into a Target or a Best Buy, you could probably get a copy of it. I mean, that shows you the longevity of these movies, if they can stick on the shelf that long. But it's a fantastic movie. It's highly recommended. I mean, obviously, it's a Best Picture winner. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But sometimes it's good to look at it with fresh eyes, and that's what I did with this, with Rain Man. So, massive thanks to Michael Bondi for continuing to support the show. It's him and Hindle are just huge, the backbone of the show as far as supporting it on Patreon. I've got a lot of other Patreon pledgers. I'll get to them in a future episode. I try to mention them every once in a while, because everybody's so generous helping out the show. Some show notes, quick show notes. I'm going to be moving the Podomatic listings to a lower tier, simply because on iTunes they only keep 99 episodes, so there's no point in having all 300 right now I'm at 238 or something. There's no reason to have them all up if they're not available on iTunes, which is where most people get the show. Some from Stitcher, some from Podmay. But I'll be finding some new avenues to put them up. But as far as the core Podomatic, I'm going to drop it down to just the 99 episodes. Again, there's no reason to have more than that. So if there's episodes you want to keep, you should go and download them now and save them to your hard drive before they vanish, because I've been deleting a few every day. We'll be at Midsummer Scream, July 30th and 31st at the Long Beach Convention Center. I will have a limited number of flash drives that have every episode of 91 Reasons on them. We'll be selling them for $20 each. It's just a way of, if people want to have all the episodes, it looks like a key. It goes on a necklace around your neck, and you can have 200 plus hours of this show. If you're interested in that, we'll have those there. We'll also have time boxes. We'll be doing mostly interviews all weekend with people who want to hang out and tell us about what Halloween means to them. So be sure to come see us at Midsummer Scream, the Long Beach Convention Center, July 30th and 31st. Go to midsummerscream.org to buy your tickets. Use code YAKYBIRD, YACKYBIRD, to save 30%. Use code YAKYBIRD to save 30% on your ticket. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Berg. Again, Michael Bondi, thank you so much for your support of the show. Rain Man is available on DVD and Blu-ray, I think. And if you look hard enough, you can find it for free on YouTube. Don't tell anybody I said that. I'm Jeff Tucker. I'm the Rain Man of this show. Definitely 91 Reasons. Definitely watching. You don't watch 91 Reasons. I don't know. Do you watch 91 Reasons, Raymond? I don't know. What do? Listen on a podcast. We download on a podcast. Definitely download podcast. Thank you. I'm Jeff Tucker, and I am the Rain Man of 91 Reasons. Definitely 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
82, 82, 82.
82 what, Ray? How much is this?
Toothpicks.
It's a lot more than 82 toothpicks, Ray.
But 246 total.
Change. Ray, how many toothpicks do you need?
250.
Pretty close. Come on, let's go, Ray.
246.
There's 4 left in the box.
Quick announcement that 91 Reasons is going to be at the Midsummer Scream Halloween Festival, July 30th and 31st at the Long Beach Convention Center.